right, here we go. Today is April 21st, and I'm so excited about today's podcast with Kathryn Holland. We've been scheduled for a while now, and it's a very important topic that's very near and dear to my heart. What to do when you get divorced and you have to deal with your finances. So I'll jump in and tell you a little bit about Kathryn. She's a certified financial planner, RICP, which is a retirement income certified professional, and a certified divorce planner. Did I get that right? The acronym?
Yeah, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst.
Analyst. Okay,
Yes.
certified financial analyst. Okay, it's a lot of
It's a
acronyms.
lot. Yeah,
Okay.
it's ridiculous.
Well, what's important is that you know what you're doing. So let me jump in here a little bit. So after going through your own divorce, a stay-at-home mom with limited financial knowledge, you decided that you wanted to get educated to help yourself and others, which is very commendable because it can be a very scary time for a woman or a man when you go through and you don't understand your destiny in many ways. She specializes in gray divorce. I like that because that means 50 and older usually. Gray divorce and helping them make informed decisions about major life transitions. I mean, what's bigger than a divorce transition? Okay. Additional credentials that I already spoke about, CFP, RICP, Retirement Income Certified Professional. She brings deep expertise and compassion to her work. And outside of work, which we should all have a life outside of work, Kathryn is a fiber artist, beer aficionado, and a passionate hockey player. She also volunteers on her local hockey community, in her local hockey community, and active with American Red Cross, and enjoys snowboarding, putt-putt golf, and upcycling vintage clothes with her son. So that's a lot, but really great. And I love how you were inspired, Kathryn, to help others because divorce can be maddening for some people, for sure, if it's not dealt with correctly. Is there anything you want to add to the description about yourself before we jump in?
No, I think you got it. Just hi everybody. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited too because the older you get, the more divorced people you know, and they say that like the latter half of your life, after 50 can be very robust. You can live a very fruitful life, and divorce doesn't have to define who you are. It doesn't have to all be downhill, right, after you get divorced.
I like
So,
to think if you
mhm,
do it right, it's that pivotal moment where your life gets exponentially better.
yeah.
It's hard, it sucks, it's really sad,
Mhm,
even if it's the right thing to do.
mhm.
But if you get through the hard stuff, that's where the rewards are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if I said the topic correctly, but it's what does it mean to have a marriage like a sports contract? And that's what we'll be jumping into today. But before we do that, I like to do a mini lightning round of questions just so we can get to know you a little bit more, Kathryn. So, you up for it?
I'm here. I'm
Okay,
ready.
great. Um, all right. Here's the first question. What is the best piece of business advice you've ever received, Kathryn?
Don't quit.
Don't quit.
If you're doing the right thing and you're following your passion and you know it feels like you're supposed to be doing this, don't quit.
That's really powerful. If you're dedicated to it, don't quit, right? I've seen this cartoon of like this like a gold miner, and he's like, have you seen that one where he's like
Yeah.
digging through the mountain and he stops, but like if you just would have dug a tiny bit more, like there's like all this treasure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say, I guess be circumspect with it
Hmm.
because make sure you're following your heart.
Yeah. The the
Because there's power in quitting too, I guess. That
yeah.
was terrible. I'm telling you both sides of the coin.
No, I mean, I think we tend to overthink things. So, follow your heart and follow your passion is is the first part of what you're saying. Don't
Yeah.
quit if you're on the right track, right? So
Yeah.
you're saying that, yeah. So follow your passion, follow your heart, and then get on the track. Don't make sure you don't get on the wrong track. What's a daily habit or ritual that keeps you grounded, Kathryn?
Is remembering to take my ADHD meds because if I don't, there's no ritual.
Really?
Yeah, I was late comer to being diagnosed, and
Mhm.
ADHD is a superpower of mine, but
Yeah,
I needed to figure out how to harness it, and
yeah.
so uh, not being afraid to figure that out at almost 50 was
Mm.
powerful for me.
Yeah, harnessing the power of ADHD. It's a
Yeah,
powerful thing. So good for you, right? If like harnessed in the right direction.
yeah,
Use your powers for good, right? With
exactly.
I love that. Um, what's one book, podcast, or resource you recommend to other business owners?
For business,
Hmm.
I I would say. Probably either, and this is, I know everybody says the Mel Robbins book is great. I love her book. I give that to a lot of clients about let them.
Hmm.
Um, I also like Atomic Habits,
Hmm.
but yeah, I haven't read Atomic Habits after starting my ADHD meds, so maybe it'll be more useful to me now.
Right,
But yeah, I would say the let them theory with by Mel Robbins is just remembering you can't control anybody but yourself. And you have
right.
to be okay with that and you control your reaction to it, whether that's setting a boundary, walking away, but you're not going to change them.
Why do you think people think they can change people?
That is a really good question. I think because hope springs eternal in the human spirit.
I love that so much because that seems like what divorce is about, right? Like, if they would just change to be like this, then I would be okay.
Yeah.
But like, why should anybody, change for you? Why do you want? Yeah, it's interesting.
And at that point, it's more like, are you willing to change to accept this thing about that person that you don't like?
Yeah, you have to change or you can control your reaction, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. What's one lesson you learned the hard way but are grateful for?
Uh, So this is the whole premise of why I got into what I did. We did our own divorce when I got divorced and made pretty much every single mistake you could make.
Hmm.
And it took a decade for me to get back on my feet.
Hmm.
And I'm really grateful for the journey that I have taken to get to where I am. And I'm grateful to my ex-husband for he's been supportive through the journey too. And I don't know. I feel like I am doing exactly what I'm meant to do with all of my intelligence and energy and passion. And I wouldn't have gotten here if I hadn't been through all of that.
Divorce helped mold who you are.
It really did.
That's hard to see when you're in it. So
Yeah.
you have to sprinkle on some time to get there, I bet.
Yeah.
Um, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Um, I wish that I had found my passion earlier because I would have so much more time to hone it. Um, and that doesn't mean that I can't get to really high heights with this. It just means that I have to put a lot more effort into it than if I come to it more gradually, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think if for anybody who's younger, and I tell this, I have a 19-year-old son, and I know it falls on deaf ears, but
Mhm.
learn to set goals for yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because why else are you going to do the hard things?
Yeah. You have to set the goals or you have to feel the impact of not doing the hard thing, right? That's what,
Yeah. And
yeah,
setting goals just gets you there faster. Like
yeah.
you don't have to necessarily go through as much difficulty.
Sometimes people have to feel the burn.
Yep. Yeah, that's me.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. One of my favorite authors says words don't teach, right? Only experience. So you can tell people, hey, don't walk in that black hole, but they're going to do it anyway because they've never been in a black hole before. So, wrapping up the lightning round, which isn't so lightning but enjoyable. What's the most rewarding part of your work today, Kathryn? What do you love most about it?
I love watching people become empowered through the knowledge that I give them. Like watching them really discover that they're so much bigger than they think they are,
Hmm.
and so much more powerful, and so much smarter,
Hmm.
and so much more ready to take that next step. Because I think that if you start the beginning of your next chapter with that, you're gonna be great. And I can't wait to see, like, I always can't wait to see, I stay in touch with all my clients because I can't wait to see what they do with themselves in this next, it's not even a next chapter, it's the next book.
So if they went into the next chapter of their life knowing how powerful they are, or well, like they would just be so much more happy or informed.
You
That
just take away, when you can help somebody to get rid of fear,
Mhm.
they're ready to really fly.
Mhm.
I mean, that's why if you're a baby bird, if you're afraid to jump out of the nest, it's going to take you a lot longer to fledge. And if you've got somebody who's like, you've got this is what it's going to look like, this is what it looks like now, this is what it could look like going forward, you're ready to jump.
I love that. I love a plan
Yeah.
because the plan reduces anxiety for me, and what could be more anxiety ridden than being divorced and not knowing if you can pay your bills. Like that seems like the most anxiety thing. They say, was it moving and death are like the biggest traumas, but I think divorce and being broke would probably be number one over
It's
that.
way, yeah. Yeah. I guess I would say being suddenly single because you see it in widows and widowers too, who
Okay,
weren't prepared. It's all transition.
change. Yeah, that's interesting. So, I guess a lot of people go into marriage and they assign their partner as the decision maker, the planner, the person that manages everything. And this works perfectly into our topic, which is seems a little scary to me, right? Like making one person control everything in anything, right? So and that person dies or divorces you, you don't know anything, you don't have any money, you don't understand what's happening, and you're like, oh, I was just laying out by the pool, and now I don't have a pool anymore, and I'm being sunburned. So crazy. So, defining what marriage means in 2026 and understanding how to have a happy marriage for yourself, for your family, to protect yourself. We had talked, Kathryn, about the topic for today, which is what does it mean to have a marriage like a sports contract? So, typically, when I talk to friends that are divorced or people that are divorced, they say things like this. I got married because it was time. I got married because she wanted to marry me. I got married because it was a scary time and I needed someone. And I got married because she seemed like she'd be a great mom. And so, with those things that people say, sometimes there's divorce with that because it doesn't seem like it's structured on a pillar of strength. So, with that being said, what would it mean if someone constructed their marriage like a sports contract?
So I have this theory that and you're right. When we get married, we tend to put divide and conquer, right? So it's like you handle the money, I'll handle the kids, those kinds of things. And we put so much on that person. A lot of times you'll see even they become really your only friend, you stop going out, and you develop this bubble. And we tell each other it's, till death do us part, and that's ridiculous. Like, like, why is that our ending? Well, what other contract in the world is until death, except maybe your contract with the IRS, right? So my thought is we change it up and we now do marriages like we do sports contracts. So you sign your first contract with your first team and you know what is expected from the team says, well, we want to be successful and you want to help the team be successful and you want to be kind of a star in making them successful. And so you say, okay, we're going to give it 3 years. And so you give it a good 3 years. And in that contract year, you're thinking, do I want to re-sign with with this team, or are my chances of being more successful with another team? And so in that year, that contract year, you've got to stop kind of playing it safe. Like you've got to be putting it all on the line. You've got to be scoring. You've got to be taking those hits. Okay, I'm a hockey fan, so a lot of my sports references will be hockey, but you've got to be playing defense. You've got to be working hard to make the team successful because you want another contract. And if you know that contract is coming up and you think that this team isn't going to be where you're going to be most fulfilled as a player, you already have that exit plan. Because you go into a contract knowing it's going to be 3 years, and at the end of 3 years, you have this much and they have this much, and you go your separate ways. And so maybe at the end of those 3 years, you look at each other and you're like, yeah, that was awesome. Let's re-up for another 3 years or 5 years or whatever it is. Like, I don't know why we decided, I do know why, and I'm not going to get myself in trouble with it, but it should never be till death do us part. It
Right.
should be until it makes sense to end it, do us part.
Right.
Because you see so many people who are stuck in an unhappy marriage, and that's no way to live your life. I mean, in a perfect world, nobody would need me, and marriages would all be easy, not easy, but safe and comfortable, and you'd feel like you're in the right spot. But until we change our opinions on what that actually means and we stop making that person your one and only, first of all, everybody needs to have friends outside their marriage and spend time outside their marriage because it's not fair to make your spouse be responsible for all of your
For
needs.
everything.
Yeah, it's just not. Um, and yeah, so that's my theory. The sports contract theory is let's make it, and that's basically what a prenup is you're
Okay.
saying this is what we have going into it. If we split up, this is how we're going to split it up. And then at the end of the sports contract, if it's not going forward, everybody's already figured out how it's all going to end. So there's not that acrimony, there's
Mhm.
not that strife, there's not that people spending tens of thousands of dollars in lawyers' fees fighting over who gets the Beanie Babies. It's just we went into it with an understanding, we came out of it with an understanding, we can still be friends. If we have kids, that's my main thing that I tell people is you get a divorce because you deserve to be happy. You remain civil and hopefully friends because your kids deserve to be happy. And that would be so much easier if we had this understanding that divorce isn't an evil, terrible thing. It shouldn't be the most traumatic experience you go through in your life. It should just be whether you've decided to continue or to take to pivot.
Right. And it takes people down.
It really does.
It's like being hip and like for some people losing their legs, you know. I really so the prenup is like part of that contract, which like removes all of that, I guess, uncertainty and things that you don't really think about when you're like happy, married, whatever. you know. A lot of
Yeah.
people get married because they think it'll save them money, right? Taxes, or they buy a home together. But in the end, that could like be the worst thing you could ever do.
Yeah. I
One of
mean,
them.
Warren
Yeah.
Buffett, who everybody knows is a total idiot in life,
Yeah.
doesn't know anything, says,
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Oh, sarcasm. Sorry, Warren, I love you. But he says the most important financial decision you'll make in life is who your romantic partner is. I mean, he says who you marry, but he's old. So, and it's true because a divorce can financially ruin a whole family.
And yet people get married because they feel emotion, right? And they feel like stuff, and that's not really the basis of such an important relationship or contract, right? And so it's counterintuitive.
Yeah. And that's why I like a prenup for people. It's not,
Yeah.
people get offended. They're like, "Oh, why are you planning on our splitting up already?" And it's like a prenup gives a couple the opportunity for to be straight up with everything that they want going into this marriage. You have to disclose to each other how much debt you're coming into the relationship. You have to disclose whether you want kids or not. Like you have those discussions that everybody says you're supposed to have before you get married, but so many people don't have. And
Yeah.
so if you can get comfortable, and the other thing is a lot of people have a lot of anxiety around talking about money. And a lot of it has to do with the way they were raised. Like either they were raised and nobody talked about money in the family because it was gauche, or they didn't have money, and so everybody was always stressed out about it. There's so many reasons that people have anxiety. But when you have that anxiety about it, and then you have to bring it up with your partner and be like, hey, this is going on. We need to figure out what we're going to do about it. You're just piling emotional topic on top of emotional topic, and it makes it really hard. And if you've overcome that anxiety in talking about money together as a couple in a calm and safe way, before you have to have the other emotional component, it just makes it so much easier because so many marriages end because of finance. And if you can be comfortable talking about it beforehand and you can talk about problems before they're big problems, you you can avoid a lot of this pain and anxiety.
Do you feel like that's the number one reason why people get divorced is finance? Finance and sex, or they go
I
together?
would
Money and
say,
sex,
I mean, yeah,
they're the
I would say
same
the
thing.
number one
No.
reason, the number one preventable reason. And yeah, infidelity is preventable, but there's so much context to infidelity. I don't really want to get into that.
Yeah.
But but a lot of people do because, and it's a lot of it could be fixed by talking about it
Hmm.
before it becomes a problem.
Yeah. And if they don't have the safety mechanism or feel safety to talk about it, then it just exacerbates all that anger and stuff. Yeah. If you're building a
Mhm.
partnership with somebody, it's like a business, right? A marriage is like a business, right? And if you can't talk about money, then it's definitely not going to work
Yeah.
because you have to register it with the state, right? I mean, you got to do all that stuff. So,
And you have to have meetings and you have to set
yeah.
goals and you have to figure out what path you want to take with what resources you have and
Yeah.
what work you guys are both expected to put into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If people look,
Strategy.
yeah, if people looked at marriage like a business or a sports contract or anything other than this, oh, it's that time of life. I'm getting old. I guess I might as well get married, or you are absolutely right. So many people get married for good enough reasons instead of the right ones.
Good enough reasons. Yeah, it's time. She's from a good family. He's from a good family. They went to this school. Like nothing that has to do with like anything that's really going to sustain your own happiness, right? Like on paper. And
Hmm.
people used to get married just to have sex, right? Like, I don't know, was that in the 50s? Like you weren't allowed to have sex unless you got married. So, I mean, That's why people got married so young, I guess.
Yeah. And the other thing is, gray divorce is actually we're seeing divorce rates fall. I think
Okay.
mostly because we're seeing marriage rates fall.
Hmm.
People are being more thoughtful going
Hmm.
into it. But the only area of divorce that's actually still increasing is gray divorce.
Hmm.
And I think it's because they grew up in that era where there was a lot of stigma around divorce
Hmm.
um and it used to be, you retired at 63 and you had a heart attack at 65. So
Right.
you weren't facing, and now you live in retirement almost as long as you work.
Yeah.
And we're seeing people facing that second act that's so much longer now and being like, I could do 3 more years of this. I can't do 30.
Yeah, it hopefully that's changing with the next generation because even now I still hear people say, "Oh, I'm not the financial one. Oh, I'm not good at the numbers. Oh, I'm not, you can tell me, but like I've deduced that basic math is needed for most financial planning, basic math, right? Like just to get, you don't need the Pythagorean theorem to like understand everything, right? So I wish everybody would just cut themselves a little slack and you understand that you just need the basic math to understand what's happening. You don't need to be like Einstein's theory or whatever.
Yeah, some of that falls on my other industry, the wealth management or the investment management side,
Hmm.
because we make things way more complicated than they need to be, or sound way more complicated than they need to be, because we're so afraid that our jobs are going to be taken by AI. But Einstein, going back to Einstein, he says, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it yourself, which means if you don't understand what that person is saying, it's because they're not explaining it to you in a way that you can understand it. And so finding a professional who explains it in a way that you understand it instead of telling you what they think you should hear is the key to that. Because everybody is smart enough to understand the basics. They're not that difficult.
Yeah.
You're just, we like to use big words. Like I remember studying to get my first securities license, and I was so frustrated because we have so many stupid words for debt. You could have a debenture, you could have a bond, it's just like, why don't we just call it one word instead of we're obfuscating the information so that we sound important, and it annoys me.
That's like what we're talking about fiduciary, right?
Yeah,
Like sounds complicated,
yeah, it
but
sounds like
every CFP is a fiduciary. So,
no.
um,
And what fiduciary means is
mhm,
simply that that person is legally obliged to put your interests ahead of anybody else's when they're making recommendations,
mhm.
which sounds like that's how it's supposed to be anyway. But the previous standard is, um, what is it? Not best interest. It has to make sense. And so, like, if you have a bunch of different things you could put that person in and one pays out more to you, you can recommend that one. But now, as a fiduciary, you have to look at them all and be like, that's the right one for the client, even if I make less money on it.
And what about like fiduciary also means that your lifestyle is you're following all the rules and things like that. You're held to a personal higher standard, right? By
Yeah,
keeping your books in order, your own finances, right? So that,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's a big
yeah.
deal, right?
It is. It is. It is. It also means, if I don't do it right, there are more severe consequences for
What do you
me.
mean if you don't do it right?
So if I don't act in the fiduciary standard,
Mhm.
the consequences to me personally are much higher than if I'm not a fiduciary.
Mm.
So, um, which I think is good. It
Yeah,
just means there's more recourse because you can be a fiduciary. I mean, Bernie Madoff was a fiduciary.
I I was thinking Bernie Madoff was a fiduciary, right? And he was such a crime criminal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So really what it comes down to is that person really the person who's going to be the trustworthy person you can rely on? And you've got to really follow your gut and do some investigation.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do your own personal investigation because a lot of people trusted Bernie Madoff, and he stole from a lot of people and everybody liked him and thought he was a great guy. So,
Well,
you,
he did all the classic things, right?
yeah,
He created scarcity. So he would be like,
yeah,
"Oh, you don't have enough money. I'm not going to work with you." And so people wanted to work with him because of
chasers.
that reason,
Hmm.
right? Or he created false senses of expediency. So it's like, well, you have to make that decision today, or I'm not going to like.
Hmm.
So there are clues and contexts and finding. Nobody, you just remember if you're making a decision that's going to impact you for the rest of your life, there shouldn't be a time
Pressure.
crunch.
I like to watch Forensic Files. So I always say, like, if your financial planner wants to meet you in a Chili's, and orders ribs for everybody and like wants you to sign something while you're eating ribs in a Chili's, that might not be a great idea.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, picking the right, so you have to do your research
You
when
have to do your research.
yeah, and you have to do it yourself. So anytime in your life when you arbitrarily assign responsibility to someone else, there's risks involved, right? And so when you get married, how much risk do you want to take out of the gate? Do you want to have a prenup and reduce the risk, or you just want to like make love all day and drink wine and then just throw it up in the air and see what happens? Like
Hope it
that could be fun in the beginning.
hope it all works out.
Yeah. I always try to say hope is not really a strategy. You can't monetize hope. Hope maybe is like in a different place. But yeah, the marriage contract, I think too, I also wrote down like till death do us part. I really think that means like no matter how bad I get, no matter how mean I get, or how awful I am, you promise to stay with me even if I suck. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. It's a license to let yourself go and to stop working on the relationship.
Yeah.
And those are the worst things you can do if you want a happy long-term marriage.
That's
And
what,
that's why the
yeah.
sports contract comes in, right?
Yeah.
In a contract year, that's when you really work on the relationship and you make sure you're not just some fat slob sitting on the couch letting the other person do all the work. Like you're helping, you're being somebody that they want to keep around.
Yeah. That's I've also heard from a lot of my friends that are divorced, it's like once we were married, they completely changed, or like 3 months in, they were like a raging alcoholic, or they were like really nice and did stuff, but then like he told me he was broke, and then, it was all like a lie, you
Yeah.
know?
See, if you'd done the prenup, you would have known. And then
You
you're making it, and there's nothing wrong with marrying somebody who's broke.
just gotta know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's an interesting exploration in life, and how do you set yourself up for success in any venture that you do, and what Warren Buffett, the not Jimmy Buffett, although I love Jimmy Buffett, Warren Buffett is right in the sense that it's your biggest investment, right? So why would you go to a Chili's and marry someone that you don't know? It's just so fascinating. So
That's
let's
why I'm
yeah.
appalled when I meet somebody who didn't live with their spouse before they got married.
Oh, really? Is that a trigger?
Well, it's just, I can't imagine because people are so different when they're so comfortable that they're walking around, in their dirty underwear, right? Like you do
Gross.
at home sometimes.
Well,
You
that's
need,
so interesting because like people then that's the old way of being is like you shouldn't move in with someone before you get married because then they won't marry you. But I guess if they won't marry you and you already live together, then they already kind of suck. Like they're not the right partner.
yeah,
That's old antique. That's a false premise, right? Not living with someone.
yeah,
It's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you got to go in eyes wide open.
Mhm. And then what is your motivation for getting married, right? Like, why do you really want to do it? Because if it's this thing like, well, if I move in with them and they don't marry me, then I won't get what I want. I don't know. Like, what's the motivation to get married is a good question for oneself, right?
Yeah. And what does marriage, I think a lot of people don't ask themselves because we just take it as the society that maybe we buy into society, but we don't think about what does marriage actually mean to me?
Hmm.
Like,
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Or the person, right? Like marriage, I've been, offered a marriage or whatever, and it's like it felt like it was like to lock me down, right? To like make me not do certain things, like be in a space. And I was like, that's like the opposite of me. And like I would definitely die if someone locked me in. But I think that's what a lot of marriages is like, okay, they're such a great person. They're so pretty. They're so this, whatever. I want to like take them.
Yeah. That's that would be problematic for me too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that stuff goes away.
What stuff?
If somebody's marrying you because you're pretty, or
Yeah.
somebody's marrying you because you're rich, like
Hmm.
money goes. If you
And yeah. And looks,
looks fade.
health,
Yep.
all of that is temporary. So if you're marrying someone because they're rich and hot, you might be in trouble when they turn any age, right?
Yeah.
Those are very flabby reasons for that kind of union. So, But then again, what you said too is like maybe just making divorce okay, but you got to set yourself up financially so you are not living on the street or living in, a home or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So let's go into the next question here. If you've set up your marriage like a sports contract and you've done the check-ins and you've got the prenup and all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't work, what are like three things you can do right away?
I would say assess the situation to determine whether this is something you do want to work on and how much work is it going to take, or is it time to cut your losses? Um, so the assessment, and once you determine what path you think is best for yourself, and maybe if it includes children, what's the best path for you and your kids? Because your kids are watching. And if you're staying in a really unhappy marriage where you're not being treated right, they're learning that that's what they should expect. Um, Even if they're not, if you are being treated right, but everybody's unhappy. But anyway, I digress. So then what path are you going to take forward? So whether it's you're going to get a divorce, whether it's you're going to go work on it, and what does working on it mean, right? Are you going to get therapy together? Or are you going to start doing date nights? Like what does that mean? And then creating that plan and sticking to it. So that I'd say those are the three steps too. If you're in that sports contract, or even if you're not in that sports contract marriage, the nice thing about the sports contract marriage is you can assess, do I want to finish out this contract and then we're done after the third year or fifth year or whatever, or do you need to get out now?
Mhm. And when do people typically meet with you, like in their timeline?
There's a variety. There isn't, nothing really stands out as the ideal time. Sometimes people engage me to let them know what it would look like if they were going to get a divorce. So we run the numbers and see what spousal support would look like, what child support would look like, what the
Mhm.
division of assets would look like, so they can make a decision.
Mhm.
Sometimes we meet when they engage an attorney, we work with the attorney. And sometimes attorneys will bring me in at the end when somebody's really unable to make those decisions because they're so scared, because they don't understand the situation, the financial situation. And sometimes just helping them understand what it looks like for their future
Mhm.
can give them what they need to make the decisions necessary.
Mhm.
And again, that's why I got into this, is because I didn't understand. When I got divorced, I just shut it down. I was just like, fine, whatever, let's do it, sign it. And I gave so much away
Right.
and didn't advocate for myself.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's because I was really scared. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was homeschooling my kid, and I was like, yeah. And so I totally understand that space of being shut down. And I would hate for anybody else to make the mistakes that I made when they don't have to, because they could just talk to me.
Yeah, that could be empowering, right? Because a lot of people don't get divorced because they aren't the income person or the earner and they have to stay in it. But maybe they don't. After they talk to you, they can be empowered to
Hmm.
really get the real stats and make an informed decision, right? Because anytime you get emotional, it impedes your decision making. So just get the facts, get the math, get the basics.
Well, the brain science is there. I talk to clients a lot about the difference between making your decisions with your lizard brain and with your human brain, right? The human brain is the one who's going to look at it as a business decision. The lizard brain is going to be looking at it like, I'm scared. I'm going to either fight or flight. I'm like, and it's so easy to get stuck in the lizard brain because that's the first stop for thoughts. And you got to push it through to that frontal cortex.
Yeah. Um, what I've heard from family members and women is by the time they hear about the divorce, it's already done. The man or whatever has already done it, right? So they're just kind of signing papers or things of that nature. So another colleague of mine, when she confronted her ex about it, he shut off all the credit cards. She couldn't get gas and she couldn't get any money. And so when I hear friends saying, I'm going to just tell him, I'm like, don't do that. It would be great to talk to you first, get the empowerment, right?
Hmm.
Because what are the expectations? You know,
Empowerment, a game plan. We also sometimes help people decide how they're going to ask for the divorce or let the person know. You don't have to ask for a divorce. It only takes one person who needs it. Um,
hmm
but how are you going to do that? And if you can do all of that compassionately, it makes things easier.
for the kids.
Hmm.
Makes me think about Sex in the City when Carrie gets broken up with and what's his name? Berger writes it on the post-it. I can no longer be with you. I can't do this anymore. So when you were saying that, I was thinking, oh, you could write, I want a divorce on a post-it.
Yeah, yeah. Or you could wait till they go out on vacation and move out of the house. I've seen all of it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen all of it. There's always people surprise me all the time. But they say, they say the usual timeline for divorce is one person figures out that they need it, and it takes them about 2 years to get to the point where they tell you they need the divorce. And
Mhm.
so in the grief process of marriage ending, you've got one person at anger and denial and the other person at acceptance. So that's a lot of the work that we do, is like helping them catch up.
Bridge that gap. That's interesting. Um, okay. So the next question that we talked about here is now that you're divorced, make sure you do these three things.
Mm. Make sure, so if you are dividing a 401k or government pension or something that needs that qualified domestic relations order from the courts to divide it, make sure you do that right away. The worst horror story I've seen is where they didn't get it and then the person passed away. And it was a huge mess. Because in California, sometimes the assumption is that even if the ex-spouse is still the beneficiary, that wasn't the intent because they were an ex, and the courts have occasionally awarded it to somebody else. And so that spouse didn't get the half that they were supposed to get.
Wow.
Um, but I would say make sure all of those loose ends are tied, right? Make sure all of the accounts are divided the way they're supposed to. Make sure that your taxes are done in accordance with, make sure your settlement agreement talks about what's going to happen with the taxes.
Mhm.
Because whatever your marital status is on December 31st is your marital status for the entire year.
Mhm.
So some people, they'll get divorced in August, and so they've been paying taxes as though they're going to be married filing jointly, and now all of a sudden they're going to be single, so there's going to be a big tax bill
Mhm.
at the in that
Mhm.
April, which can be devastating if you
Mhm.
feel poor. Um, and I would say talk to a tax person. So I'm studying to become an enrolled agent. So
Nice.
and because I want to do taxes, I don't want to live a tax person's lifestyle because I've seen that and it's horrific. They literally get 4 hours of sleep a night between like February 2nd and April 15th. But I want to be able to do taxes for people in that first year of being single. So you can make sure everything is divided appropriately. If there's carryover losses, that it's divided. Do all that work. I'm starting to get too technical.
No, that makes
But
sense.
be prepared for that first tax year of being single. It can be a shock. And I would say to that end, go and make sure that all of your beneficiaries are updated and make sure that you've updated your W-4. That's the form at work that changes your withholdings with the government because filing single or head of household tends to have more tax consequences than being married filing jointly. I'm actually remarried. Um, and he's kind of younger than I am, and he hates it when I refer to him as my tax write-off. But here we are.
Yeah.
He graduated though, because I used to refer to him as my sugar baby. He hated that one too.
That's awesome. Yeah. Taxes are a big implication in someone's financial destiny. And I think when you get divorced, most people are like, who gets the house? But like, if there's a lien on the house and you owe taxes on it, then you don't really want the house, right? So like, make sure you're asking for the right stuff.
Oh, that is so important. So many people just look at the numbers instead of looking at, because, $100,000 in an IRA is way different from $100,000 in cash because
Mhm.
you're going to have to pay taxes on that money in the IRA as you pull it out.
Mhm.
So it's actually depending on your tax bracket. If you're in the
Mhm.
24% tax bracket,
Mhm.
it's $100,000 of cash is worth $124,000
Mhm.
of IRA money. And so looking at in
Mhm.
that way, but also looking at if you move, what happens to your property taxes? What about the capital gains on your house? And how do you navigate all of that, especially in gray divorce? Because
Mhm.
usually you've had that house for a long time. And so whoever keeps the house, if they sell it, they're going to owe a lot of taxes. And so that's the main reason the CDFA
Mhm. Yeah.
profession came into being is to
Mhm.
help look at all of that complexity
Right.
when looking at settlement agreements. We've just also navigated towards helping with a lot of the emotional side because helping you overcome the emotional side gets you to where you can make those decisions.
Yeah. I was playing golf with a family law attorney and one of he was I think it was him or his the guy other guy I was playing golf with and they're like, "Oh yeah, in her divorce she asked for the retirement, but like the real money was somewhere else, and they were saying how unfortunate for her that I think it was like the guy I was playing golf with sister or something, how she asked for the wrong thing,
Hmm.
and it's like where I see a lot of your value is like educating the person and like see what things are really worth, not just like the number, but the value, long-term impacts, things of that nature. That is where it's more complex than just the numbers. Taxes
Yeah.
are huge. Like taxes are like a big thing.
And they're
And
constantly changing. So
yeah,
what you knew 5 years ago is very different. Yeah, and people anchor on things. They're like, as long as I get to keep all of my retirement, I'm fine, whatever happens, right? Or I need to keep the
the
house.
house
But
is a big one I hear a lot of
the
women
house
say, as long as
and the
I get to
house,
keep the house.
if you don't look at all of it, it might end up being that albatross around your neck. And the reason they call it an albatross around your neck, Do you know this, why they call it the albatross cross?
Mm-mm.
So it used to be the sailor. So albatrosses were considered a good omen. And if a sailor accidentally killed it, in order to not take on that bad luck, they would have to wear the rotting corpse of the albatross around their neck in penance. So your house could become this rotting corpse, just bringing you down around your neck if you haven't thought everything all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, how would you pay property taxes? How do you pay maintenance? How do you pay upkeep, like
Insurance,
insurance,
HOA, like,
mortgage?
hmm? And is that mortgage assumable? So you get to keep that low interest rate you got when you first
Mhm.
bought the house, or are you going to have to refinance?
Mhm.
Because the housing payment on a I just did this calculation for somebody. So they have a 2.83% interest rate, and their housing payment right now is about $4,000. Their mortgage is about
Okay.
$4,000 a month.
Okay.
And I calculated if they had to refinance at 6.5%, which is pretty generous,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
their housing payment would go up to about 6,000 or 6,500 a month
Wow.
because of that interest rate difference. You got to know that's coming.
Or suffer the consequences. So,
Or suffer.
yeah, we're all emotional people, at the core, right? We're humans. That's part of what makes us beautiful. So, taking the time to really understand what you're getting into and setting up milestones like in the sports contract and making sure that you're okay no matter what happens, right? Like maybe the person you're going to stay married to forever is going to be rich and good looking forever. Maybe
Yahtzee.
not.
Yeah.
Um, So I have a question. When someone comes to visit you and they're like, okay, I don't know if I want to get divorced, but can you run my numbers, look at everything? Have you ever like done a background check on someone and found like all this crazy stuff that like they didn't even know existed?
There is so much information in a tax return.
Oh, right. We've talked about this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You can find a lot of interesting things there. Um, and even more information if you pull a tax transcript,
Hmm.
which the IRS will do for you if you ask for it.
Hmm.
But yeah, you see some crazy stuff.
Hmm. They're
It's
like,
just,
okay, now I really want to get divorced now that I've seen all this.
yeah, yeah.
So that's why the tax part's even more important to
Hmm.
that we're talking about and you becoming an enrolled agent. I think that's very illuminating, Kathryn, the tax part, because I don't hear a lot of people talking about that, the
Yeah.
tax implication of your financial destiny with divorce.
Hmm.
That's a big topic.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, well, I think we're coming up upon the hour here. Is there anything that you'd like to share with someone about divorce in general, or maybe something that you wish you would have known about? I mean, we talked a lot about that, but any kind of final nugget you want to share with the audience today?
I would say that marriage and divorce shouldn't just be emotional and learn to separate. Even during a marriage, you should learn to separate the business from the emotion so that you can ask the questions you need to ask, and also you can ask for what you need. Like I said, it would be awesome if every marriage was a happy marriage for the rest of your life. But marriage takes work, and you both have to be on board with that work.
Mm.
Um, and it's okay to pivot if it's not working. I was I was the spouse who took the 2 year, like I just remember anytime I see somebody with that 1,000 yard stare, like sometimes we'll meet both couples and you can just see one person is sitting there and they're in their heads thinking, how did I get to this point in my life and what am I gonna do? And I remember I was at the playground with my son and I was just kind of standing on some bars just staring at my feet, and I just remember I take myself to that moment anytime, be like, how am I going to be divorced? Like, I don't have a job. I've been out of the workforce for forever. Like, I'm not going to be okay. And I am. I'm so okay. I'm so much more okay than I was. And I'm really fulfilling the potential that I was given by having gone through that. And it can be a personal journey that leads to finding new strengths. And so don't be afraid of it. It's going to be hard. You're going to lose friends. You're going to learn a lot about a lot of people, and you should still do it if it's the right thing.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. I was like on that visual journey with you for sure. But then there was a moment where you decided, right? Like, do you remember that moment where you were like, I'm gonna do this, like I'm gonna be okay? Like, how did you get to that point? Like, how did you get to a point in your brain where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be okay.
So the way I asked for a divorce is very, as they say, bass backwards. We were at that point in a marriage where like he would get home from work and we would go into the office and we would talk. And the kid would be downstairs watching TV. And it would go on and on. And it became something I dreaded every afternoon. But I still was so scared of being single and what it would mean to have to figure out what was going to happen. And he would always say, "But you're still in this, right? You're still fighting for this marriage." And I'd always say, "Yeah, no, I'm in it." And then that day, that afternoon, it just fell out of my mouth like, "Nope." And I didn't mean to say it, but it's like it just plopped out and fell wetly onto the floor between us. And it was like, I looked at it and I was like, I'm not taking that word back. I am done. Like, I'm finished. Like, I need this to be over. And so it wasn't planned. It just happened. But I guess it was like an unplanned pregnancy. It was an unplanned divorce. But it was the
Rebirth.
right thing for me.
Yeah.
Because I had spent so much time, so much of my energy and so much of my life had gone into just navel gazing over my relationship.
Hmm.
Like I was a stupid 14-year-old girl again. It's like, no, I have way better things to do with my life.
Good for you.
And then the moment where I was at the grocery store buying a six-pack of beer that I picked out for myself on my way to my first night as a single in my apartment, I was like, this is going to be fine. I'm making my own decisions now.
Boom.
Yeah.
I love that. You just decided in that moment you were gonna make it okay, even in the unknown, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've had moments like that
Yeah.
when things were crazy and I was like, I'm just not doing this anymore. And then it just changed because you decided.
Mm-hmm.
So with the work that you do, Kathryn, illuminating, finances for people, showing them the pathway to how they're going to be okay. I would like women and men that are getting divorced to be more empowered to live a life that they love. And I think that you can help them with that by taking away some of that fear. And life is short. Why would you spend time in a relationship with somebody that's bringing you down or that you don't love or that's not helping you be the best? So that's one of the things I love the most about what you're doing, Kathryn, and that's how I see what you're doing. It's way beyond the numbers. It's helping people live a life that they love.
Yeah.
Yeah. With that being said, why don't you tell everybody how to reach out to you, your phone number, your website, that kind of thing.
Sure. So our company name is Cover Your Assets. Some people love it, some people hate it. If you hate it, you probably wouldn't enjoy working with me. But I'm Kathryn, Kathryn, at coveryourassetsdivorce.com. Our website is coveryourassetsdivorce.com. And we are working on getting resources for people, even if you don't think you need a CDFA, come check us out. We've got a podcast, we've got, checklists, we've got things that you might find useful. And my phone number is 510-424-1169, and I work nationwide.
Great. Well, let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much, Kathryn. I really appreciate what you do, and I want a lot of people to listen to this and a lot of people to hire you so they can live their second half of life with intention and happiness. And thanks for doing what you do.
I always love chatting with you. You're so interesting.
Thanks. All right. See everybody on the flip side.